Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Halo 5 Legendary Lone Wolf walkthrough. This is Mission 6. It is the Unconfirmed. It is the people who did not accept Jesus in their heart and will now burn in the pits of eternal damnation. And I picked the wrong truck here, guys. I thought this was a rocket cannon thing, and I thought the other one was like an electrical thing. This is a machine gun, the other one is a much better gun. And Buck is a moron. If you get this guy on your gun, you're gonna die. Because I died literally at the first enemy, because he wouldn't shoot it. I'm like, Buck, god damn it, Buck. And it makes me really sad, because he's the most experienced guy here, because he was an ODST. He was the dude in ODST who was voiced by Nathan Fillion. Yet, he's a retard. It just doesn't make sense. So you'll notice, the first thing I do is get out of that shitty truck, and I'm looking for the other truck, because I'm like, I can't do it with that truck. I want my truck, damn it. And I believe the other truck is on the other side of it. I didn't see it. There it is. And then I wait for Buck to get in this and redeem himself, but I believe the girl, is it Kelly? She gets in instead. Oh no, it's Vicky Vale. There you go. She comes in and helps us out. So this is a vehicle section, I suppose you could say, but it's nowhere near of the scope of the old games. It's a very linear, very simple sequence of events, and I don't mind it because I prefer linear games when it comes to this kind of thing. But once again, to me, Halo is that kind of open vehicle section where you can do your own thing. And I don't think this game ever truly achieves that. I think they've opted for a more direct path that just has a couple of different routes on it, rather than, you know, here's quite a big area that you can go across and trip checkpoints that will literally never help you. But this is a beautiful game. A truly beautiful game. And I just don't think I can say that enough, because you're just not going to appreciate just how beautiful it is. Is this what if this is what I think it is, this is really hard. This checkpoint now, coming up from this box over here, I thought I could just rush this and get past everything and skip it. That's not the case. This goes from, I might be able to rush past this, to, I have to kill all of these enemies and there's just not enough bullets in this world. So this is going to be a 20-minute siege. An absolutely miserable 20-minute siege. Because there are so many of the Promethean enemies, and they take so many bullets, and the end is a ramp up to a doorway that is filled with people who have grenades and grenade turrets, which can almost instantly kill you if you get unlucky, and you have to do so much again, like so much work again. It's not even funny. And I think when you were aware of a checkpoint not being great, when you're stuck and you've been there a while, you play differently. You play cagey, you play safe, and you know, you get paranoid. And it sometimes doesn't help, because sometimes, as I believe, fortune truly does favour the bold. And you can't be bold when you're terrified that one mistake is going to lead you back 20 minutes. And I think that it's a fight like this that really makes this feel trickier than it is. And the method that I'm showing you now took me a while to come to this, because I got killed a lot. Like, I'd kill stuff for 15 minutes, I'd clear it out, get real close, and then somebody'd shit on me, and it'd be like, oh god, really? So in the end, I always go into the same mood on a game. When I've died enough times, and I'm really feeling it, I'll just do stupid shit. I'll literally... What if I just ran at them and did nothing? Maybe they'll just not shoot me. You never know. It could happen. Or I'll go and stand in a corner. Maybe it's a safe spot. Maybe it's a blind spot. You never know. And I recommend it. When you're stuck somewhere and you're getting really disheartened and demoralised, do stupid shit. You'll be surprised what you find. And on this, I found that you could go through this back route, get up onto the opposite side, and pick up a turret. But it didn't really help me as much as I would have liked, but it did give me some other weapons to play with, and a couple of checkpoints that really helped. So it did end up pulling through, but I still think that this fight is considerably longer than it should have been. It's rough. It's really rough. But I do like this battle rifle. The holographic sight that it's got really reminds me of Killzone too. I don't know why. It just kind of does. And somebody left a comment saying that because this game doesn't have split screen and because it has, you know, true ADSing, that they're not going to buy it, that they're not interested because it's kind of what Halo means to them and they've enjoyed it since, you know, the first game. I completely understand that perspective, but at the same time I think you're missing out by not at least trying it, because change isn't always bad. Change is just new, and that's one of the things I tried to achieve with the interim intro that I was going to start running on the channel, which I still haven't decided if I'm going to use. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I've had an intro that you watched at the start of this video with Hitman walking towards the camera for way too long. The reason for this is my laptop died, effectively. It started overheating, and it means I can only use it for about 30 minutes before it kills itself. And it has my only copy of Adobe After Effects. And it's a copy that I actually own. And I get all these comments like, oh, just pirate it, it's dead easy to get all these cracks and shit. It's like, I don't want to fucking pirate it. I own it. I want to get my version. And I keep meaning to, like, getting the install files off of it somehow and then transferring them over to this machine. But it's a pain in the ass because the laptop's really slow and you're on a timer anyway, so half the time it's just not worth it. But I've not been able to make another intro, even though I've got a couple of cutscenes at the moment that I've been playing with that I want to do, and I like to change the aesthetic of the channel every so often for diversity's sake. People, however, think it's about, you know, what's better, and it's never about that. And whenever I've aired on the channel, you know, a prospective new intro, it's never been, do you like it? Because it's irrelevant. What happens in the intro is 100% my artistic choice. And as long as I like it, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because it's my intro. It's the same as if it was yours. There comes a point when you are making art, if you can call it art, and I would, because it's the same process of what I did when I studied art at college, but art is selfish. It has to be intrinsically selfish for it to be good, because it is a pocket of your personality expressed on a canvas. Doesn't matter what it is. Music, film, effects, anything. Even gameplay to some extent, it is a logical extension of yourself and your character. The choices you make are inherently part of your personality. So I never ask if people like the intros. All I ask is, do you want to see something new? And that's the point. It's never about being better, it's about being different. And everybody seems to have forgotten, especially on that video, because I got a lot of people saying, like, you know, Agent 47's classic now, it's way better, and this, you know, you can't go away from a classic. When I first aired that intro back in 2012, people said the exact same thing about the Alan Wake one. Nobody wanted the Hitman one. And in those days, I wasn't asking if you wanted it either. I was just asking if somebody would like to see a new intro, regardless of what it is, just something new. And a time for a change, essentially, just to mix things up. And now it's been so long that people don't remember that people are averse to change, and it's just how it works. So when I put that video up, it just kinda didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I've got a lot of people essentially mentioning what they think I should have as an intro, which is never ever a question I will ask, because I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I don't care what you want with that. That's what art is to me. Do you think Da Vinci asked other fuckers what he wanted to paint? No, he painted what he wanted to paint. And I am not Da Vinci in no way, the guy was a genius, but when it comes to an intro, I'm the one who works with it every single day, and as long as it pleases me, that's all I care about, because it's an extension of me. And I made a big mistake with that video, because people thought, for some insane, amazing reason, that the entire video was the intro, that I would somehow willingly put people through a minute intro before every video. And like 40 seconds of that minute, or 50 seconds of that minute, was 3 rounds of Street Fighter that was completely unedited and just raw Street Fighter. Like, 3 nondescript rounds of Street Fighter for an intro? Really? Somebody thinks that that's what that was? Like, I don't even have the brain to contemplate why that would even be a thing. But it's my fault, because of course I didn't apparently differentiate enough so that certain people got confused. So a lot of people were saying that it was too long, because they thought it was a full fucking minute. And I just like, ugh. It hurt my brain that day, it truly did. But it's that thing, isn't it? It's that weird thing of you put things on the internet and you're going to get a lot of different opinions. And it's great on one hand, and at other times it makes you just want to die. It really does. I have a difficult time dealing with people that don't get things. It stems from my neurosis, I think, because I have a very stubborn way of thinking. It's probably my mild autism, which is what the memes and all the internet trolls would say, which... I don't know, I think we've probably all got a form of autism in some ways that we act, but I also think it's very offensive and diminutive to just blatantly call people autistic because they have particular ways of dealing with things, you know. And if you do know somebody who actually has autism, I think it can be quite rude to them, which, that's the internet, isn't it? We're offensive, we don't give a shit, we hope you die. There's the internet for you. But that's one of my biggest flaws on my channel that I try really hard to deal with. And I'm getting better at it, but it's a slow process. Because, to me, it makes perfect sense. I don't understand how anybody can't get the things that I do when I've explained it and when I've put it there. To me, it's like just the perfect thing. And then someone will come along and just completely miss the point, and you're like, how? How did you get from A to B when it was always A to C? There was no B. I don't understand where B came from. And I have to mute that part of me that's like, are you fucking kidding me? Can you really be this stupid? And it isn't stupidity, it's just, you know, maybe something wasn't explained correctly, maybe wires got crossed, maybe just a general ignorance in certain ways and not a negative ignorance, just, you know, just an ignorance. And it's that weird thing. But it happens a lot, and one of the things when you do any kind of interaction with people through text is it can come off as being very callous, very harsh, or sharp, because people infer their own kind of tone from text. You could have said the most objective and political thing that just causes no offence, and somebody will take it the wrong way, other people will take it the right way, and that's just the way it works. It's more of a reflection of your mindset at that time, depending on whether or not you take offence from something, or you understand that, you know, I'm just being precise so that it doesn't lead to confusion. And one of the things I always try to do with the channel, as I shoot these dudes in this massive firefight that goes on forever, is I try to be firm so that there is no ambiguity. And a lot of people misconstrue that as me being an asshole, which, if you think that, that's perfectly fine, because I don't give a shit. And I don't say that as in like, oh, I don't care about critics, or I don't care about people who don't share my opinion. It's not that at all. It's just, I don't have to feel sorry for your offence. It's not part of my programming. You're not my family, you know, I don't know you in person. A lot of these people I don't even know because they don't interact enough, and it's generally those that respond the same. But it's one of these things where you made that extra effort to be offended by something. I'm not making that effort, I'm just laying down what it is. And some people take it the complete and utter wrong way, which I don't have time for. And a lot of people will throw the card, you know, like, oh, you should respect your fans, you should do this. It's like, I have 100% respect for fans that don't ask stupid questions. Stupid questions that have already been answered a million times. Like, questions that don't need to be asked. And a lot of the times, people just want to interact with you, you know, they want senpai to notice me. That is all it is for a lot of it. It's that self-affirmation of, oh, I got a reply from X, somebody who I look up to and I like, and I get that completely. But there are times when, like, people are busy, dude. You can't always be, you know, open to do that, and it's really easy to treat somebody that you have access to like Google, and I don't think that's ever a great thing. And that's one of the things on the internet that, once again, I am trying to work towards. Like, you'll notice, if somebody insults me now, I generally don't say much back to it. I generally either ignore it or try and diffuse it with a joke. And then if they get, you know, really malicious and they keep doing it and it's apparent that all they want to do is start conflict, I'll either block them or mute them because I'm just not interested. If they've got something valid to say, then I'll leave it be. But if it's that person that's seeking that negativity and seeking to try and, you know, just essentially derail things, I'm just not interested because I've got no time for it. Whereas before, I would tell that person to get, you know, muscle dystrophy and drowned in cancer and things, and just the most horrendous thing I could string together, which is pretty good because I had a lot of experience of doing that at school. Because I was kind of a bullier, if you understand the notion of that. But that's not a good thing, guys, because negativity is like a poison, and unfortunately people can't seem to see the distinction between critiquing something and being negative. They seem to think that when you say that a game has bad aiming, or a game has a mechanic that doesn't work as good as it could be, that you're shitting on it, because they have a very emotional response, whereas we're trying to be analytical and scientific. They're just like, oh, you hate the game, you're being a dick. Which is completely not true at all. Some of my favourite games are some of the most flawed games I've ever played, because you learn to understand and use the flaws to your advantage. And that's what makes me really appreciative of the people watching now who get and join in the discussion, and they voice what they think is different or what they think could be changed, and all that kind of aspects of the discourse that happen in a general commentary / walkthrough that I make, because they're the people that appreciate that, you know, you don't have to suck a game's dick to like it, and you don't have to believe that it's flawless, because they're not. Nothing is flawless. The reason the word flawless exists is, of course, to express my beauty, but for the most, everything is flawed. And sometimes the flaws can be more endearing than the qualities. And there are some people that completely disagree with that. Those are the types that will literally never talk about anything remotely non-positive because they don't want it to add a dampener on anything. And I just have never understood that personally. I like discourse. I'm not doing it to be irate or to provoke anyone's ire. I'm doing it because sometimes it's more entertaining and more interesting. And I don't say that in a, oh, it gets hype and it makes things go viral and it gets me more views because I can swim in my vault of Scrooge McDuck money. I say it just because it makes things literally more interesting. Like the Batmobile on Arkham Knight is such a divisive thing. I could go on every video and say it's a great mechanic, and then talk about something else. Or I could go, some people really hate this. Let's look at why. Like the turrets in this game. I love carrying a turret from one section to the next, because I think it's really cool that you can empower yourself on a future section. I hate how slow you move when you're holding a turret, and I don't understand why it goes third person, but I enjoy that too, because it gives me an advantage. It gives me a bigger field of vision. Which, if you talk to a serious PC gamer, he's all over that shit, FOV, dude. They love that shit. And I'm looking forward to actually playing a PC game with, you know, a better monitor, with a higher FOV, just to experience it and feel if it is as life-altering as they seem to think it is, or seem to preach it is, I should say. But this is a big fight. This has nothing to do with the politics of language on the internet, and I just got rushed by that dude. Oh, whoa, you see that? That was really lucky. It took his shield real quick and enabled me to kill him, but it also took my shield, so I have to be careful with that in the future. It's an interesting gun, though, this, just because it's very different. I still don't like it. But, you know, experiment with it, you might find something cool. It might have a secondary feature that I never found. Like good old Turok days, back when guns had secondary and tertiary features, and you could carry 40 of them at once. I miss those days. And here we have the assault rifle, which is a little different in this game. This is the first Halo game when I haven't hated that gun. I always felt that all you did was buff people's armour, because it did nothing. It was literally like pissing on people, without the indignation. But on this game, I really like it. It seems to be a little bit more accurate, it seems to have a little bit more punch, and it just makes a bit more sense. But I never liked that gun. This gun, however, always liked it. I think the battle rifle was probably the best invention they did. Because it just works, dude. It makes the game feel so great. He's teleporting away. It's interesting that they can do that as well. So, the Covenant, over the series, have had this uncanny ability to dodge. Like, they jump around like idiots. Especially the elites. The elites are horrendous for it. Dodging left, dodging right, scrambling, all kinds of mad stuff. The Prometheans, they teleport instead, and they have anti-ballistics, like anti-rockets tech. It's weird. If you fire a rocket at a knight, he just deflects it. And I didn't know this. I don't know if this has always been a thing, or if it's a new addition. But on the very final mission of the game, I fired a couple of rockets at a knight, and the dude was straight up Vegeta swatting them out of the air. They did nothing to him. It was really annoying. And the worst part is the rocket is always kind of symbolized, you know, the best thing in the world. Like, it's a power weapon. It's called a power weapon, I presume, because of Quake, Doom, and Unreal. It was the weapon on the map you needed to control to win, because it was the best gun. You know, it's always had that stigma of being, you know, the big daddy. Halo had a really good rocket launcher. Did I kill myself more than I killed other things with it? Definitely. But it was always the gun that was, you know, the king. This game, it feels like a water pistol. Like, straight up. And when I shot it at those dudes, I can't even begin to express the anguish I felt knowing that the most powerful gun in most games couldn't even touch that particular enemy. It's not a great feeling. It really isn't. It undermines you, and I think that's one of the worst things you can do to a player in a game. I like it, because I think it's great that that really tough enemy has a super good defense. It's like, you know, when you fire a stinger at a chopper and it sets off its flares. Only this dude just stand there and just bats it away. Like he's at Wimbledon, you know, playing against some fat person's dad. Don't know why the man's weight would affect his father, but, you know, it works. But there's going to be a couple of ambushes on this weird platformy thing. I like to stand up here, get the high ground, and generally I work circles around it. These crawler things, oh, they're just the worst. It's one of those enemies that they should just die immediately when you shoot them, and they don't, and they can be legitimately dangerous. If they focus fire you, good luck. Straight up good luck. But there is a final sequence on the final mission where you have to defend against a wave of enemies, and I was having a really difficult time with it because of the geometry and because of the crawlers. The big dudes didn't give me any hassle. It was trying to get my shield back and getting rushed down by dickhead dogs, or getting at distance and then that lock-on bullshit pistol they've got just were finding me and killing me. So I was having a tough time. Like, not, you know, struggling, but I died at least 3 or 4 times and was like, wow, this is, you know, this is not easy. And then I was boosting across a jump and I found a really sneaky platform, but it's tricky to use, however you can't be damaged. There's only one way you can be damaged, that is by a splash of a grenade hitting the lip if you step too close. If you never do that, you're completely safe. And I'm going to show you it, and I'm going to explain that you should use it, you know, in your own time, because it's not an effective killing strategy, but it is a god tier defensive strategy. However, your team are so terrible at killing things, I went downstairs and made a coffee while they were stood shooting and I was in the safe spot, and they had killed nothing. And everything was crowded all beneath me where I couldn't actually see it or shoot it, and all they needed to do was chuck a grenade, and they never did it. But that leads me to another thing that they've kind of changed, and I think it's 343's just divergent choices of gameplay. In the old Halos, you could give the Marines guns, and if you gave them a rocket launcher, they had infinite ammo and they had aimbot, so it made it really, really powerful as far as the strategy went. If you could kit your entire team out with guns on this, my goodness would they wreck shop, because you always have like 4 dudes with you, which translates to effectively having a kill squad with you the entire time. A death squad of soldiers with great guns, potential off the charts for high damage, but they don't allow you to do it as a balancing choice. And I think it misses a little bit of strategy with that, because I think it'd be a really, really cool addition that they already had way back when. However, I understand why it's not there, but I wish it was, because on the final boss, I would have given every single member of my team, I should have said gave, I think, a turret, a grenade turret with at least 10 grenades in it, and they would have maybe made a difference. They could have, and I love the idea of the team making a difference, but on that fight, they're just not gonna. The only thing they are is a distraction, and if they distract, they're working for you in a great way. If they don't, you're on your own. It's going to be interesting, but we're not quite there, so I'm not going to keep talking about it too much, because I know some people get frustrated with that. But I generally say the same thing to those people. What I talk about in the commentary is the fruit of what is happening in the video. If something is happening that I don't think deems worth talking about, because it's literally me just doing what you do in every Halo game, and it's all about your gun skill and positioning on the battlefield, and there's no real strategy to divulge, other than do not get punched when they rush you like that, or you will die, I'm going to talk about whatever's in my brain at that moment, and if you disagree with it, that is, you know, it's your prerogative to go elsewhere, guy. Or girl. I don't know. Apparently I have like a 4% female demographic on my channel. They're not the most vocal bunch, but a few are, which is nice to see, because girls game just as much as guys. I just don't think they're as vocal. Maybe they've got more important things to do, I'm not sure. Being a girl is way harder in this world than it is to be a guy. I fervently believe that. I'm not a social justice warrior, or a super like feminist lapdog, or whatever you want to call me. I have eyes. But I pick up the turret here, and I wait for the next spawn, because I'm always a fan of walking around with this silly turret. It literally looks like you're holding some kind of vacuum that has weird holographic butterfly wings. And I appreciate that they're meant to be a shield, but you can't use them as a shield. You notice that? They don't really seem to block anything. But can you imagine if this game was third person, or if there was a choice to go into third person? I think it would make it really interesting. I'm not too sure if I would prefer it or not, but I'd like the fact that they gave you the option, because not enough games do. If you could play all first-person shooters in third person, I think it would be almost like 2 different games. It could be really cool. Also, I think jumping like this is pretty much the fastest way to travel. It looks stupid, and you feel an idiot, but it's better than just, you know, walking like you're pushing a wardrobe. So there is a knight there. He has, I believe, a sword and a scatter gun. So he has a shotgun and a sword, and he will only really be a threat when he gets close. His buddy has that incineration cannon, I think it's called. It is essentially the giant red blob of doom, custard chucking machine. Which somebody asked me how exactly, if they was using the custard chucking insult correctly. I think it's a pretty flexible insult. I don't even think it really is an insult. I mean, throwing custard at somebody, I mean, isn't it what clowns do in those little cakes that they put on each other's face? So I suppose it's not exactly the most shameful thing to receive. But it worked for that situation, and I used it, and I embrace my off-the-cuff remarks. So I'm trying to shoot his little engine under his arm, but it's not having any of it. Now I'm just shooting him in the face. There it was, can we get it? No, we can't, we're too slow. But his face is revealed, so 1 more burst and he is dead. Or maybe 3 more bursts. I have this habit, whenever a gun is semi-automatic like that, of mashing the trigger while I'm aiming. It comes from using far too much M16 in Call of Duty 4, because that gun is amazing. I always found it funny too on that game. The 2 guns you start with are 2 of the best guns in the game. You know, nobody has a clear advantage in that game. They really don't, unless they're using a bad gun. And there aren't that many bad guns in COD 4, because it's just, I love it so much. I've grown to appreciate a lot of the guns. And you know that Call of Duty 4 remaster's coming, guys. You truly do. Activision are the ultimate at milking franchises for everything they're worth. Like, this is the publisher that gave the money to Neversoft to both ruin Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk collectively. And they did a fantastic job of flooding the market in complete saturation to the point where the consumer didn't want it anymore. And Call of Duty is going that way. It is slightly declining. It's still a mammoth, and all it takes is one truly great innovation like COD 4 to revitalise everybody's feeling. But the true question is, who is going to be the forerunner of that technology? Who's going to pioneer that change? Because I just don't know who it will be. And I found it hilarious. Did you see that statement that the EA CEO guy said? Where he was on about, I think if you're making high-definition remasters on the new-gen consoles, you've pretty much showing that you've ran out of ideas. Coming from the guy who created milking annualized bullshit. Like, come on, I say the guy who created, but he runs a company that every single year brings out a new game that is only slightly different thanks to nuances in an ever-growing engine. There's a golf game, there's a baseball game, there's a basketball game, there's a football game, there's a rugby game, there's every kind of fucking game. Every year. And the only thing that's different is the dude on the cover. Like, which is completely wrong, and if you like those games, you're probably really deep in them. But do you know what I mean? Unless you're a hardcore sports fan of that sport game, you don't give a fuck if it's got extra dribble tech or if it looks like your shirt's flapping in wind when you're shooting for a goal. Like, it's so bizarre. By the way, this is really hard. This section is not fun at all. There's these weird robots shooting at you from outside, and then there's people to shoot on the inside, and I wanted nothing to do with it. So my advice, run. Run for all you're worth and get the one attempt where you don't get instantly murdered. Put anything you can between the bad guys and yourself, get your shield back, and then run again. You do not have to shoot those vehicles that are in the air shooting at you, but you might have to shoot some of the Prometheans, so just be careful. But I only died a handful of times, but it was enough to realise that this section's just miserable. Those things on the outside that are shooting at you, completely unnecessary. This would have been perfect. A slow ascent fighting off Prometheans, but instead, here's a bunch of gunships that can murder you really quickly. That's fun, right? To which my answer is no. It's not. Why would you do these things? What did we do to you? Why does God hate the Jews? But keep on pushing upwards, and there are times where I wasn't getting shot, and I'm like, this is gravy. There's the mantle mechanic working wonderfully. That was a rather ambitious jump on my mark, though. So, I run to punch that guy, because all I want to do is get myself into cover, and he's the only cover I can see. I get really damaged from behind, and just get over here. And I'm going to crouch and get my shield back, and pray that one of those ships doesn't swoop in front of me and start shooting, and it doesn't. And I believe that there is a checkpoint very soon. There it was. As soon as you hit that, like, oh, thank goodness. The bullshit is over. And then now it's just standard Halo shooting, you should be fine. And we're actually coming really close to the end of the mission too. But I think this is one of those sequences where they added those external elements to make it more interesting and more, you know, frenetic. But then on Legendary, they just don't mix well. It's the kind of thing that puts so much damage on you so quickly, and they take so many bullets to kill. Like, I don't know, to me, it is a system that is failing. And I think it's a system that can work, but I just find sometimes, if your hardest difficulty is dragging your game down, maybe you should tweak the certain areas. Because there's a very big difference between strategy and challenging. Then there is no cover, this thing can see me almost everywhere, and I have to put myself in a really bad spot to even suggest not immediately dying. And it's one of those systems in games that I really don't like. And I think it would be really easy to fix too. Just change the damage parameters on certain things. Like, these guys kill you fast enough, you don't need the chopper to do, or the flying thing to do the same amount of damage. Look at Uncharted on Brutal. That is a game that at times feels like nobody who was human even looked at it. They just slid the sliders up and released it. But then you get to a vehicle, and it doesn't do Brutal's damage. It does, like, Crushing's damage, and everybody else is the lethal element. So all you're doing then is putting up with it while the other people put pressure on you. And on this situation, if those gunships didn't put that much damage on you, but they forced you to move by just constantly trying to damage you, it would have had the same effect. But instead, there's a good 50 seconds where all you can really do is hold your breath, clench your ass, and run. And I never find that anywhere entertaining. It only feels tense and hectic on normal. Because on normal, you don't get instantly lasered by everybody at the same time. Like you walked into some kind of audition for a bukkake and didn't exactly realise why there was 40 dudes all stroking themselves. And you just got blitzkrieged in the face. But it's a system that I don't agree with. But this is the end of the mission. So all you have to do now, folks, is run towards the vehicle that's waiting for us just over here. The Guardian, I believe, is going to take your shield, but it doesn't matter. It's just one of those scripted events. And then we're going to just cruise over here and get to the ship. It's going to do a nice fade. And the mission is down, folks. But in the famous words of Beneath the Massacre,
the system failed, we have to prove it now.
Which isn't actually famous at all, but it was the only quote I could think of that used the word system, and I went on a massive system fest at the end there. But thank you for watching, and you take care now.